to the kingdom. Cheers. A toast to the king.
You elect will drink wine new with Yahweh Shai. You elect. As of right now, we say hopeful elect. You elect of Israel out there will drink wine new with our Lord Yahweh Shai in his Father's kingdom, which is going to be the kingdom of heaven here on this planet Earth once Yahweh Shai returns. When our Lord comes back, one of the first things he's going to do is have a toast with his men. He's going to have a toast with his men, those that stood stiffly for his name and his Father's name. Let's read this one more time. Matthew chapter 26, verse 29. But I say unto you, I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine, which is wine, which is made from grapes, as you know. And our Lord, he loves to drink, man. That's something that our Lord took pleasure in when he was here on this planet Earth. He's not going to do it anymore until he returns to do it with you, showing just how much he loves his elect, man. He's not even going to drink until he does it again with you. I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom. So what a moment that's going to be, man. And you can only imagine the quality of wine that's going to be. Our Lord Yahweh Shai, he has access to different things that we don't even know about, man. Access to different grapes you don't know about. Has access to an entirely different quality of life that we don't know about. But he's going to reveal it to you. He's going to give it to you when he returns. Now, you have what's called a loyal toast. A loyal toast. I'm going to read this real quick. A loyal toast is a salute given to the sovereign monarch or head of state of the country in which a formal gathering is given. In this case, the sovereign monarch or head of state would be Yahweh Shai. He's our sovereign monarch. He controls everything, man. But guess what? He's also going to extend that power to you elect. He's going to share that power with you. A loyal toast is a salute given to the sovereign monarch or head of state of the country in which a formal gathering is given, or by expatriates of that country, whether or not the particular head of state is present. In this case, the Lord will be present. So you're not going to have someone speaking for him giving a toast. He's going to host the toast. He's going to be there, man. We're living in a time we're going to meet Yahweh Shai. You're going to meet him face to face, which is proof also that we have to be changed. We can't meet the Lord like this. He's going to change you. He's going to crown you, and he's going to toast with you. Now let's read some more. It says, it is usually a matter of protocol at state and military occasions and a display of patriotic sentiment at civilian events. The toast is usually initiated and recited by the host, which will be Yahweh Shai, before being repeated by the assembled guests in unison.
To the kingdom. Cheers.
Sometimes when Akim are among each other, we'll do little small toasts. Brothers may be like La Yashirala, holding up cups. But imagine the Lord himself hosting it, man. And we join in. And I was reading something else, and pretty much they said in order to have what they call a loyal toast, you would use wine. That's the beverage of choice. And once again, our Lord, He's coming back, and we're going to see Him with all that power. But He's going to extend that power to you. Now, reading on a monarch, it says a monarch is a head of state for life or until abdication, in this case for life. And therefore, the head of state of a monarch may exercise the highest authority and power in the state. Or others may wield that power on behalf of the monarch. And that will be you joint heirs. You different men that are going to reign with the Lord, man. Usually a monarch either personally inherits the lawful right to exercise the state's sovereign rights, often referred to as the throne or the crown, or is selected by an established process from a family or cohort eligible to provide the nation's monarch. In this case, the Heavenly Father Yahweh Himself selected His Son Yahushua. And once again, when our Lord returns, He's going to wield that power to you elect as well. Once again, He's going to change you, He's going to crown you, and He's going to have a toast with you. A kingly toast.
To the kingdom! Cheers! A toast with the king! Raise your glasses, my friends. A toast with the king. A toast with the king. Raise your bubbles, everyone. A toast to a prosperous future. To the king. To our glorious future. To the victors, blow the spoils. Raise your glasses. Cheers. Raise your chalices to the golden age of our kingdom. A toast to the king.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Makakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers, and peace and blessing and salutation to the hopeful elect out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem Kakwadash, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners who may have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. All right. This morning news and prophecy, as we know, last night, there was a lot of talks, dealing with the ceasefire. Information is still coming out, so the news was announced, yesterday, and I know, and we spoke about this, at the beginning of this war, that there could be a potential off ramp. And this is how war works. Ceasefires are a part of war, and at the end of the day, we have to just stick to the narrative of prophecy, man. Okay, a ceasefire is not a step back; it's a part of war. Okay, if we're going to go into what this ceasefire means, okay, dealing with, Iran, America, the small hats, and it's a fragile ceasefire. Okay, this is a very fragile ceasefire. You see, but this is all part of war. All right, this is all part of strategy. Okay, this is all part of politics. All this, plays a factor when you're dealing with war. Okay, so we're going to go into these things, but first we're going to some precepts. Then we'll go into, all right, the analytical aspect of what we got going on. All right, so let's go here. This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 19 and 21. Said, there are many devices in a man's heart. Nevertheless, the counsel of the Lord there shall stand. So we know, regardless of what these nations do, with ceasefires and certain deals and negotiations and this and that. We know it's the counsel of the Lord gonna stand. Okay. And Yahweh Bashim Al Shai is in full control of all these different narratives, man. And they're all gonna lead to prophecy being fulfilled. Prophecy will prevail. Okay. So this is not a step back from prophecy. No, this is just a part of the narrative, man. Because everything it has its appointed time. All right. And that's why when we go into these speak about war, we speak about these are the beginning of sorrows. Okay. So war is a thing of patience. These things can be drawn out. All right. Like I say they can be a conventional war, okay, for a year, 2 years. You see, we're just a month in. We're just getting started in the war. Okay. So we know that these devils, and another thing too, this shows that Esau, all right, these elites, they're scrambling, man. It shows that they're scrambling because if their thing is to do a energy lockdown, well, this doesn't fit their narrative well. Okay, if their all right goal is to do an energy lockdown, well, this doesn't fit their narrative. The best thing for them to do, would you get into it? Okay, with a if they want a true energy lockdown crisis, okay, they should just let Trump, all right, they should just let America go ahead with their strike, okay, which that was going to devastate, all right, the energy markets, okay, that was going to devastate the energy markets, which we'll get into that, okay, but it shows you that these devils, they're on the back foot, man, okay, and they're listening to the prophets, and they know, okay, they know, all right, their prophecy is on their ass, man. Okay, this doesn't look good for the elites, man. It seems like they're tacky, they're confused, there's disagreements, things ain't going how they want to go. All right, they're trying to patch shit up. Okay, because we're gonna go into the timeline leading, all right, to the escalation. Okay, to the this so-called ceasefire. All right, which is a fragile ceasefire. So when you go into Habakkuk 2 and 3, saying, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie." So we know everything is at an appointed time. The Lord already got this thing mapped out. Okay, every ceasefire, every so-called negotiation, every escalation, every crisis, everything is already mapped out. The famine, you know, the MOTB, everything is appointed, has an appointed time. Okay, so there's nothing that's not working according to the will of the Lord. You see, everything is for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it. It would, because it will surely come. It will not tarry, man. You know. So as it seems as certain things are tarrying, all right, we have to understand that's because the Lord has everything specifically at specific times. The Lord's timing is perfect, man. And that's one thing we gotta trust the timing of the Lord. Okay, because certain things can happen and they can be discouraging. You know, you hear about the ceasefire and like, damn, you know, because our mind, especially been locked in to nothing but escalation. So you hear a ceasefire, like, damn, but then it's all within the will of the Lord. Okay, and it's still set according to prophecy, man. Okay, everything is in this appointed time. All right. So nothing is going backwards. Everything is always going according to plan. Y'all have to have that mindset. Everything is going exactly according to the plan of Yahweh Bashem Shai. Okay. Job 14:5 says, "Seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee. Thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass," man. So Esau is on the timer. Okay. He don't have time, because really, part of this ceasefire, man, America had to crawl out the ring, man. You know, and so it was getting very bad. They had to crawl out the ring. You see, and Iran is planning strategically on their end because we have to understand these nations. They're all playing the long game, and they're trying to posture themselves and set themselves up in positions of power going into this new world order. Okay, they don't want to go into this new world order war torn. Okay, because if you, this war, all right, is doing a lot of damage to both sides. Okay, so these nations, all right, in their mind, they want to go into this new world order with power. Okay, so Iran, has made a power move, with these negotiations. Okay, with this war, Iran has bossed up in their region. Okay, so Iran has been upgraded from this war. They're much more stronger and respected right now, all right, than they were at the beginning of this war. Okay, and they're leveraged that new respect, that new deterrence that they've established through this month of fighting, and they're leveraging it politically and economically right now with these negotiations. Okay, I say we'll get into all that. All right, but you have to understand Esau has an appointed time. Okay, and he can't stretch this thing out. Okay, like I said, but ultimately America, they need their time out. Okay, they had to crawl out the ring. All right, because they was losing their ability to project any power in their region. That's why it got to the point to where Trump was on some last ditch shit, some desperation shit, man. Okay, this is um this is Second Ezra chapter 4 and verse 37 says, by measure have he measured the time, and by number have he numbered the times, and he doth not move nor stir them until the said measure be fulfilled. So the Lord got this thing perfectly mapped out according to his timing of how he want each prophecy to play out. Okay. So this war is going to go to the next level when the Lord wants it to go to the next level. Okay, when the Lord wants to go to the next phase. All right, because they were finna make a major jump up the escalation ladder. Okay, but it wasn't their time yet. Okay, but the Lord is letting us know, hey, that it's coming. You see, it's coming. You see, because this war escalated quickly, man. This is just watching these wars. This is the quickest escalation, that I've seen where they was finna go to. Like I said, this just in a month. And this was a lot of escalation that happened in a month. Okay. So let's just do a quick summary of, okay, how did we get to this ceasefire? So when you go to before the war started, what was America saying? Okay, we want to destroy, all right, their nuclear industry. They don't want Iran to be able to produce any type of uranium in any capacity. Then they wanted Iran to restrict, all right, and downgrade its ballistic missile systems. And they wanted, all right, Iran to stop aiding their proxies like Hezbollah, okay, different proxies in our Iraq, different proxies in Yemen, okay, and Hamas, okay, what's known as the axis of resistance, okay. So they wanted to disband it, all right. So this is the negotiating points that America came into this war with, okay. So during that negotiation, all right, the small hats in Iran, the small hats in America, they struck Iran February 28th. All right, they killed General Soleimani. Not General Soleimani, the Ayatollah, all right, Khomeini. So they killed him first day, assassinated him first day. Okay. So then you had constant back and forth and escalations, all right, from day one. So whenever you a war, they got what you call an escalation level. Okay. Now, usually how the escalation level works is, okay, if you do something, all right, if you do something to me, I'm gonna match what you do. Okay. Or then I do something else and you match what I do. Okay. And that's how the escalation work. It usually go, you go to this wrong, I meet you on that wrong. You go to that wrong, I'm gonna meet you on that wrong. So that's how escalation ladder works. With this war, the way the escalation ladder was working was, all right, as America did something, Iran will go up another rung. Okay. America and the small hats would do something, Iran will go up another rung. So this was escalating different. You know, they was running up the escalation ladder. All right. to the point that there's damage. Even if the Strait of Hormuz was wide open, they don't even have the capacity to do those 20 million barrels of oil a day. They won't have that capacity for a while because of the damage that's been done to certain refineries, man. Okay, and the stoppage of production, all right, with certain oil fields. Okay, so this thing was escalating, all right, quickly. Now, what Trump was talking about, destroying bridges, and he was pretty much saying that we finna make Iran unlivable. He was going to destroy Iran's ability to produce oil. Okay, he was going to destroy their ability. He was going to destroy, a lot of civilian critical infrastructure. Okay, and to make Iran unlivable. That was Trump was speaking on. Okay, so he was saying, well, this is what we finna do. But before he said that, you had this whole thing with this rescue of a pilot in Iran, but it really wasn't a pilot rescue. So before all this, a few days before Trump made that statement of how he was going to, destroy the Iranian civilization, you had a attempt. It was a special force. It was botched. So you had special forces come in, Navy SEALs, Rangers, Marines, and they went to Isfahan, all right, where okay, the nuclear facilities of Iran is at, and that's where um, they believe that their uranium, the actual uranium itself, okay, is in Isfahan. So America went on this special forces assignment, all right, to extrapolate their uranium. Like they was on some real, James Bond movie type shit. So they sent them special forces in, and their plan was to extrapolate their uranium, build a runway, okay, and fly the uranium out of Iran, okay, and that would have did wonders, okay, politically. All right, a Trump could have declared complete victory. He could have, you know, look. He could have been looked at as a hero, and that would have, politically put swayed everything back to the West. Okay, America would have looked strong. They would have looked tactical. They would, so it would have did wonders. Trump would have been basically like a demigod if he would been able to pull it off to extrapolate their uranium. Okay, build their runway. All right, a makeshift runway, get the uranium out of there, fly it out of there, and then he could have exited the war and looked like a hero. You know, but it failed. Okay, and when that failed, because Trump is desperately trying to get out of this war, okay, because it's going left, it's going way left, and it's getting worse and worse, and America is constantly losing their ability to wage war as this war continues, man. As this war was continuing, because the reason why we've been hearing about so many American aircrafts going down, because they're out of those Tomahawk missiles and those fighter jets. The air to surface missiles that's in those fighter jets, those Tomahawks. Now those Tomahawks they can shoot from a range to where you don't have to go into Iranian airspace. They was able to go on missions, all right, and go to the edge of the Persian Gulf, all right, on the side of those GCC nations. They was able to let off, all right, their payloads and turn around before they get into their kill zone of Iranian defense system. So when they ran out of Tomahawks and they had to use, the less advanced, all right, munitions, air to surface munitions, they had to start getting closer to Iran. And that's when we started hearing about all these fighter jets started to get struck down because they had to go into the kill zone just to get a lick off, man. Okay. So America was losing this ability to do damage, all right, in Iran. So what they was going to do was some last ditch effort with this whole thing with Trump talking about we're gonna destroy civilization. Nobody really know what he was gonna do. Was this nigga finna nuke? What he's finna do? Okay, so if he would have did whatever he was going to do, all right, they was going to jump way. They was going to skip a lot of those rungs on the escalation ladder, and they was going to go way to the top. Okay, that would if Trump would have did what he said he was going to do last night, they was going to jump a lot of those rungs on that escalation ladder. And you're talking about Israel would have been in the dark. Those Gulf Arab nations would have been in the dark. There would have been no water for those Gulf Arab nations. Israel was going to be in the water crisis. Okay, the the whole GCC, their oil, everybody's ability to produce oil was going to be eliminated. Okay, and you're talking about the oil market going crazy. You know, like hyperinflation. If that was to go down last night, all right, but it wasn't that time. But that's where they was at. You know, so Iran and America, they walked off the ledge, but they was right there at the ledge. Okay, they was right there at the ledge of this thing going way up to the top of the escalation ladder, man. Okay, so now they have these ceasefire. Now a ceasefire is not an end of the war; it's a pause of the war. So they're giving each other 2 weeks, okay, to negotiate a deal that could possibly end the war. Okay. So a ceasefire is what they're in now, which there's been attacks still from the small hats in Iran, even after the announced ceasefire. Okay. Now, in this ceasefire, this what got to happen. That means that the small hats, all right, they have to cease attacking Iran. So we know that America can't control BB, man. Okay. So any second, all right, the small hats can, all right, break the ceasefire. Okay, with Iran, and the war gonna start back like it never stopped. Okay, that's why it's called a fragile ceasefire. Okay, well, let's get into some of the details. Let's let them go into it, and then everybody, you know, Iran is claiming a victory because now Iran is the one setting, all right, on the talking points for negotiations. Iran is dictating the terms now. Okay, based off a position of strength. Okay, Iran is negotiating from strength. Okay, so the 10 points that they're bringing out, you see, is from a position of strength. All right, and see, things can never go back to like they were. See, Iran now, they bossed up. The Strait of Hormuz, you got to pay a toll. Okay, see, Trump whole thing is to try to get some victory. Let's open up the Strait of Hormuz, nigga. It ain't closed, nigga. You just got to pay. Okay, you just gotta you just gotta check in now. You see, and see what Iran doing. They're making this thing legit. Like, nah, nigga, you gotta check in with the Strait of Hormuz now. Okay, so let's go here. Let's go to this first one and just kind of get some details about what's going on. Okay, so let's play this. And I say, if anything, you know, doesn't make sense, you know, feel free to ask a question. You know, so let's play this.
After the ceasefire, Iran mocks the US amid massive celebrations erupting on Tehran streets, with crowds waving flags and filling public squares. Tehran declares a historic victory as protesters chant "Death to America" during jubilant nationwide rallies marking the truce. Iran claims the US was forced to accept its comprehensive 10-point peace proposal after weeks of intense military pressure. Has Trump accepted Iran's conditions on the Strait of Hormuz and continued nuclear enrichment rights under the truce? Will Trump pay compensation to Iran amid truce news, even as Israel alleges a fresh Iranian attack post-ceasefire? Panic grips Israel as missiles reportedly fly with damage mounting right after the ceasefire call shatters fragile calm. As Mujtaba basks in the glow of Iran's historic victory, are Netanyahu and Trump left utterly embarrassed on the world stage? Iranian media mocked the American announcement of a ceasefire, portraying it as a historic victory for Tehran after weeks of intensified conflict. Iranian state-linked narratives describe the pause after about 40 days of fighting as a decisive win, suggesting that international pressure and military setbacks forced Washington to seek a truce. Massive demonstrations took place in Tehran following the announcement of the ceasefire, with large crowds gathering in public squares waving flags and chanting slogans.
Because this is a win for Iran politically as well. Okay, because the fact that America, because it's already been known that America been begging for a ceasefire for weeks. Okay, but Iran was making sure that enough damage was done. All right, because what the damage that's been done, 2 weeks ain't gonna make a difference. Okay, 2 weeks ain't gonna make a difference in this war. 2 week ceasefire ain't gonna make a difference with the damage that's been done. Okay, you got aircraft carriers that's been knocked offline for a year and a half, 2 years. Okay, so 2 weeks ain't gonna make a difference. And I said this is a power move. Okay, on behalf of Iran, that now they're being respected as a superpower. You see, Iran is being respected as a superpower, man. All right, the EU, them niggas was under the bed the whole time. Okay, you see, and Iran was holding its weight. All right, with these small hats in America, man. The mighty American Air Force was being neutralized, man. Okay, this was heavy. The Strait of Hormuz, the global economy was in the hands of Iran. Okay, so this has been a power move, and it all works for prophecy, man. Because guess who's in the background benefiting off what Iran is doing? Russia and China. Okay, and it was Russia and China because remember, Russia is a chief prince. So in the spirit, Russia has rank over Iran. So in these back talks, these back channel talks that we're not privy to, but through the spirit, you can extrapolate through prophecy that Russia, all right, played a part, okay, in the ceasefire, man. Okay, and it's all strategic. Okay, it's all strategic, man. This ain't, they're not backing away from prophecy. No, this played right into prophecy because now everybody is looking at the chessboard different now. Okay, everybody's looking at this chessboard, the politics, like it, completely different now. Okay, certain nations have been emboldened. Okay, North Korea, these nations are emboldened. They seen what Iran brought America to the negotiation table through war. And usually the other way around. Usually America brings nations to the negotiation table through war. That's why these nations have to take these bad deals from America because they're doing it from a position of weakness. Iran coming to these negotiations with strength. Like, nigga, let's do this. We got 2 weeks. Let's get this ironed out. Or nigga, let's go back to war. Nigga, either way, we can get a deal or we can go back to war. Okay? So let's let this play some more.
Protesters shouted death to America, death to Israel, death to compromisers, echoing long-standing anti-Western slogans seen in previous wartime rallies. On the evening of April 7th, Trump announced a 2-week truce, explicitly conditioning it on the complete reopening of the Strait of Hormuz to oil shipping. Trump stated that Iran's 10-point proposal provided a workable basis on which to negotiate, signaling that U.S. officials are treating Tehran's terms as a starting point for talks. The first point in the proposal calls for mutual pledge of no new aggression against Iran, creating a baseline for de-escalation. Second, Iran demands continued Iranian control over the Strait of Hormuz, insisting on sovereignty over the region's key maritime corridor. Third, the plan includes the acceptance of uranium enrichment under international monitoring, rather than a full nuclear rollback. Fourth, Iran seeks the removal of all primary U.S. sanctions that directly target its government and key sectors. Fifth, the proposal includes the removal of all secondary sanctions that affect third-country entities doing business with Iran. Sixth, Tehran asks for the termination of all relevant United Nations Security Council resolutions tied to its nuclear and missile activities. Seventh, the plan also calls for the termination of certain Board of Governors resolutions from the International Atomic Energy Agency framework. Eighth, Iran demands payment of compensation for damages it attributes to past sanctions and military actions. Ninth, The proposal seeks the withdrawal of US combat forces from the wider Middle East region within a defined time frame. 10th, Iran calls for a cessation of war on all fronts, including against the heroic Islamic resistance of Lebanon, referring to Hezbollah and allied groups. Iranian media have claimed Tehran inflicted significant damage on US military infrastructure across the Middle East, from regional bases to naval assets. Iranian leadership has asserted that within just about 10 days of the conflict, the United States realized it was on the defensive and began to reassess its strategy. The Press TV report further alleges that the US started exploring a ceasefire through indirect channels soon after this shift in the perceived battlefield balance.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
Earlier on the evening of April 7th, President Donald Trump had confirmed that a ceasefire had been agreed after more than a month of intense war with Iran. Trump announced a suspension of planned new bombing of Iran once a self-imposed deadline for that same day was reached, framing it as a step toward de-escalation. In response, Iran stated that if attacks against it stopped, it would cease defensive operations, indicating a conditional willingness to halt its own strikes. Trump stressed that the truce was contingent on Iran completely, immediately, safely reopening the Strait of Hormuz, tying the pause in fighting to restore global shipping through the key choke point. Tehran said that for the 2-week period, shipping through the Strait of Hormuz would be possible via coordination with its military, signaling that it intended to keep tight control but allow limited passage. Trump said Iran's 10-point proposal was a workable basis on which to negotiate, describing it as a serious framework for moving toward a broader settlement.
And see, America ain't gonna be willing to do none of that. Okay, America not gonna be willing to do none of that. So more than likely, ain't gonna be no negotiation. But what Iran is showing that nigga, we got the cards. You know, because his whole thing open the Strait of Hormuz, nigga. If the fact that America gotta ask Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz, the world looking at that. Okay, now Trump, them, they can try to flip it like they, they got some type of victory out of it. In the Western media, the simple believe every word. But the world is looking like America is asking Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, if you're asking, nigga, you're asking from a position of weak. If you have to ask, you're asking permission. And Iran said, look, as long as they check in, they pay their toll. Okay, they coordinate with our Navy, they can come through. Okay, now the small hats ain't getting nothing. Them niggas not getting nothing. Okay, and another thing too, if America withdraw from striking Iran, but them small hats start back, this gonna be bad for them small hats, man, because the only reason, all right, the small hats even still got a state is because America has been propping them up, man. Okay, because Trump want to stop fighting, but the small hats, they not gonna want to stop fighting. Okay, and they gonna drag America right back in this shit. Okay, like I say, Trump crawled out the ring. All right, but BB gonna pull his ass right back in the ring, man. Okay, but for the most part, this negotiation ain't gonna hold up. All right, because this is basically a surrender. Okay, and this Iran showing the world where America at. You see, to simple people, but people that's in the know, the generals of the world. Okay, the leaders of you see, these different governments, they know what this is. Okay, because these are all terms being dictated by Iran, America. And Trump asked for the Strait of Hormuz. He said, nigga, if they check in, it ain't gonna never go back to what it was before February 28, when the Persian Gulf was treated like international waters and trade and oil just moved freely through those waters, man. It's not going back to that. Okay, that ain't gonna happen. You see. So America is getting nothing that it wants. Okay. And the small hats, they not gonna stop. These niggas gonna do something else, man. Okay, and drag America right back in the ring. Okay. So let's play a little bit more more of this.
He added that almost all of the various points of contention had been agreed between the US and Iran, arguing that only a few outstanding issues remained. According to Trump, the 2-week period will allow the agreement to be finalized and consummated, portraying the ceasefire as a window to lock in a more durable deal. For its part, Iran said its decision was based on a US request to negotiate on a broader 15-point proposal. Iran also emphasized that Washington had accepted Tehran's 10-point draft as a framework for discussions. Trump also noted that the truce had been finalized based on talks with Pakistan's prime minister and army chief, highlighting Islamabad's behind-the-scenes role in mediating between Washington and Tehran. Israel reported fresh missile attacks from Iran on the night of April 7th to 8th, just as news of a truce was confirmed, claiming the barrages had continued despite public talk of de-escalation. According to Israeli officials, Iran fired 2 to 3 distinct waves of missiles since Trump announced the ceasefire, suggesting that launches continued even after Washington's declaration. The Israeli military said some of the incoming Iranian missiles were successfully intercepted by its air defense systems, according to accounts carried by local media. The IDF also claimed that a number of those missiles were equipped with deadly cluster warheads, designed to break up in mid-air and scatter bomblets over wide urban areas. One ballistic missile attack targeting southern Israel triggered warning sirens across the region, as residents were urged to seek immediate shelter. That particular missile aimed at the south was later intercepted before impact, and authorities reported no injuries in that incident. Soon after, Iran launched additional missiles towards central and northern Israel, according to the IDF, broadening the scope of the latest barrage. Impacts were reported in central Israel, possibly caused by cluster submunitions or falling fragments from intercepted missiles, leading to multiple scattered impact sites. Rescue teams rushed to the areas where debris fell, though initial reports indicated there were no immediate casualties, only material damage. Subsequently, sirens sounded yet again in southern Israel as fresh missiles were detected and tracked inbound, keeping large parts of the country on edge.
So even after the announcement of ceasefire, you still have Iran, all right, striking the small heads, man. You know? So yeah, this is a very, very fragile ceasefire, man. You know, and we'll see day for day, really hour for hour, how this thing gonna hold. Okay? But we know one thing, prophecy gonna prevail. Okay? And another thing, I know some of you brothers probably watch UFC. So really, this ceasefire is just a reset for America to reset themselves, because it's like Iran has America on the ground and they were doing damage. Okay, America want to stand up and reset, you know, because Iran has jumped on them and they ain't let off of them since. So America really want to reset itself, you know, and go back at them. Okay, they're not concerned about no peace deal. They want to topple Iran. Okay, so it's gonna be interesting, you know, day for day, hour for hour, you know, how these things play out. All right, so let's go here real quick. I think I got another one. Oh yeah, I think this was a Putin first reaction.
Putin's first reaction after ally Mujtaba appears to have forced Donald Trump to halt the war. Russia's first statement came after Trump announced a 2-week ceasefire with Iran. Putin aide mocked the United States and NATO bloc after Iran deals humiliating setbacks to US in war. Iran now appears to have gained both nuclear leverage and Hormuz advantage as Trump was forced to bow before Iran. Russia's foreign ministry on April 8th reacted to the newly announced Iran-US ceasefire after weeks of war. Maria Zakharova told Sputnik that Moscow had helped efforts to resolve the Middle East crisis on the basis of international law. Zakharova said Russia played a role in the peace push and framed that role as part of a law-based effort to defuse the conflict. Maria Zakharova said, and I quote, "Russia's active involvement in helping to resolve the situation was built on national interests, international law, and truly humanitarian goals." Unquote. On April 7th evening, President Donald Trump declared a 2-week ceasefire after more than a month of war. Trump said the truce was finalized based on talks with Pakistan's prime minister and army chief. He also said Iran's 10-point proposal offered a workable basis on which to negotiate. Trump added that the 2-week period will allow agreement to be finalized and consummated. However, reports indicate that Iran appears to have distributed two somewhat different versions of the 10-point draft, with subtle but potentially significant variations in wording.
So yeah, just the main point of that was, Russia was mocking America and NATO, man. Laughing at them niggas, man. You see, because NATO, they ran, all right, that NATO base in Iraq, they got attacked, and all them niggas went home. Okay, and America was getting its teeth kicked in, and the small hats, all right, they never stood a chance. You see, so, Russia, all right, because if you, I've been looking at a few things, but you look at Russia and China in these UN meetings, lady, they diplomats that they sent to these UN meetings, where Russia and China been swagged up. Russia and China been going to these meetings swagged up, man. You got with a whole different demeanor, because everything's swinging in their favor. Okay, according to prophecy, man. Ezekiel 38, Kings of the East, man. Everything's swinging in the way of prophecy, man. When you look, some of them UN meetings with Russia and China, man, they in that thing swagged up, man. Okay, like damn, little homie beating the brakes off you niggas, man. Okay, because Iran, that's like they little homie. And they think, nigga, you can't do nothing with little homie. Y'all niggas don't want to see me. You see? But yeah, them diplomats, man, them foreign ministers from Russia and Iran been swagged up, man. Okay, that money, economically they've been winning. Politically they've been winning. Militarily they've been winning. They see America like, oh, we got this nigga, man. You can tell it's their spirit. We got this nigga. Because Russia and Iran, they get to get all this free, data on American military. They get to test their weaponry on America in real time, and then, oh, we got this nigga, man. Okay, and they see they got the missile defense system neutralize America Air Force. Okay, because remember, Iran is playing with S-300s. Okay, there's rumors that Russia got S-600 and S-700 missile defense system. Okay, but you got S-300 shooting down F-35, nigga. That ain't that, nigga. You, nigga, nah, nigga, that ain't good. Okay, nigga, it only get worse. So, and Iran, they still had things that they haven't unleashed yet, man. So it's, the East swagged up right now, man. The West looking terrible, man. So let's I got one more. Let me see. Is this it? Yeah. Let's play this. I think a brother had a precept. Get some of these precepts. See. Let's go here. This is the book of Joel chapter 3, verse 9. This is the brother GMS DC Tazadak Yarah. And it says on Joel 3 and 9 said, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, all right, and prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. All right, wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Yeah, so the Lord has awakened the mighty man of these nations, man. All right, and you can tell they ready for war, man. You had the Chechkin, okay, which are Russian, all right, soldiers, but they're Islam, all right. They're the Islamic, okay, like special forces, okay, of the Russian military, man. Okay, and they were like, look, nigga, if America do a ground invasion, we won't in. You see, they was on deck. North Korea, North Korea sent personnel to Iran. shipping. There's rumors that they done sent some ICBMs to Iran. Okay, we gonna find out for sure. Okay, but the spirit of the mighty man, they awaken, man. Them kings of the east, man. It's a spirit on them, man. Okay, to fulfill prophecy. All right, and Iran done set a precedent that has emboldened all these nations in their region, man. Okay, so you go verse 10, it says beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say I'm strong, man. And we're seeing this. Okay, nations that was once weak are now in positions of strength, man. In 40 days, man, the whole tide done changed, man. Okay, the whole perception of America and perception of these other nations done changed now. Okay, and you can't. It's too much been undone. Too much been uncovered, man. America can't play this tough. Can't play this tough guy no more, man. Okay, all these threats and you're gonna do this and see, America can't do that no more. Well, nigga, we just seen you get whooped. We done seen you get the shirt tore off your ass, man. You can't come around here and put this tough Debo. Nah, nigga. Okay, we got option now. Go get Iran on your ass, nigga. The nation can say that, nigga, gonna go get Iran, activate Iran on your ass, man. Okay? Joel 3:11 says, assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together around about till it calls the mighty one to come down, O Lord. So the Lord still got this in progress, man. This little ceasefire, all right, this ain't got nothing to do, all right, with the Lord's prophecy being fulfilled, man, and what he wants to do in the earth, man. Okay? Thought I seen another one. I'm gonna let this one play. Oh, here you go, right here. Okay. This is First Thessalonians 5:3 says, for when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, and travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. All right, this is from the brother you call Hopeful 144. Yeah, man. So that's another thing. The scriptures cover everything, man. So no matter how much this media try to push peace, like there's some path to peace, within these conflicts. No, it's gonna go there. It's gonna go all the way there. Okay, until America is a desert and Yahweh Shai has destroyed the militaries of the earth, man. It's gonna go all the way there, man. Okay. So let's go here. Let's play this.
Something just happened in the Middle East that almost no major Western outlet is giving the attention it deserves. Iran didn't just respond to America's back-channel negotiations. It sent back a list, 10 conditions, each one more audacious than the last. And together, they read less like a peace proposal and more like a demand for surrender. Welcome to Daily Reports, where you get clear, reliable, and up-to-date coverage of global events. To understand what Iran just put on the table, you need to understand the ground beneath it. For over 4 decades, the United States and Iran have existed in a state of structured hostility. Sanctions, proxy conflicts, covert operations, diplomatic freezes. It has been, by any honest assessment, one of the most complex geopolitical standoffs in modern history. America's strategy was clear: economic suffocation. If you strangle Iran's oil revenues, isolate its banking system, and prevent foreign investment, the theory goes the regime eventually collapses or capitulates. That strategy did not work. What it produced instead was something the architects of maximum pressure didn't fully anticipate: a regime that adapted, that built alternative networks, that cultivated influence across the entire arc of the Middle East, from Lebanon to Iraq, from Syria to Yemen, without needing Wall Street, without needing SWIFT, and without needing Washington's permission. And now, following a series of escalating military confrontations, operations that left American assets damaged, American credibility questioned, and American investors rattled, we find ourselves at a genuinely historic inflection point. Iran is not at the table begging for relief. Iran is at the table setting conditions, 10 of them, and the world is watching to see whether Washington blinks. Let's go through each one. Because taken individually, they are remarkable. Taken together, they represent something that hasn't been seen in decades of Middle Eastern geopolitics. Condition 1, permanent cessation of hostilities. Not a ceasefire, not a pause, not a 30-day window followed by quiet repositioning. Iran's position is unambiguous. When this ends, it ends completely. No temporary truces designed to allow one side to rearm and re-engage. Any agreement must be permanent, binding, and structured, or there's no agreement at all. This matters because temporary ceasefires have historically favored the party with superior logistics and resupply chains. Iran is signaling it understands this dynamic, and it's closing the door on that playbook. Condition 2, full removal of all American sanctions. Every single one. Not a phased reduction. Not a conditional waiver tied to future compliance reviews. Complete and unconditional removal of the economic restrictions that have defined Iran's relationship with global markets for the better part of 2 generations. The implications of this alone are staggering, and we'll return to the economics in a moment. Condition 3, a formal binding guarantee that neither the United States nor Israel will conduct military operations against Iran in the future. This is not a verbal assurance. Iran is demanding something structural, a commitment that carries legal and diplomatic weight. Given that the history of such guarantees in this region is, to put it charitably, inconsistent, the enforcement mechanism here is the real question. Condition 4, Iranian sovereign authority over the Strait of Hormuz. This is perhaps the single most geopolitically loaded point on the list. The Strait of Hormuz is not just a waterway. It is the jugular of the global energy system. Approximately 20% of the world's traded oil passes through this narrow channel between Iran and Oman. The dollar value of goods transiting it annually is estimated at roughly $7.8 trillion. Iran is not merely claiming rights here. It has already begun implementing transit fees. Tehran's position is now explicit. The rules of this waterway will be set in Tehran, not in Washington, not at the United Nations. Condition 5, full withdrawal of American military forces from the broader Middle East region. Not a drawdown, not a repositioning, a full exit. The United States currently operates military installations across the Gulf, in Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, the UAE, and beyond. These bases represent decades of strategic investment. They are the physical embodiment of American power projection in one of the most resource-rich regions on Earth. Iran's demand, effectively, is that America packs up and goes home. Condition 6, the complete end of American political interference in the region. This goes beyond military presence. Iran is demanding that the United States cease what it characterizes as destabilization efforts, funding opposition groups, backing regime change narratives, supporting information campaigns designed to generate domestic unrest. In short, stay out of our neighborhood, politically and diplomatically. Condition 7, non-interference in Iran's internal governance. This condition is directed squarely at the debate over Iran's political system. No funding of protests, no support for internal dissent, no pressure campaigns tied to human rights framing as a pretext for regime change. Iran is saying, our system, our rules, our future, full stop. Condition 8, full financial compensation for war damages. Every piece of infrastructure destroyed. Every economic disruption caused by military escalation. Every facility damaged. Iran is demanding that America foot the reconstruction bill entirely. The precedent this would set is extraordinary. It would be the first time a non-Western nation has successfully extracted war reparations from the United States through leverage rather than legal mechanism. Condition 9, a formal future framework to prevent re-escalation. Iran is thinking institutionally. It wants a structured diplomatic architecture, clear communication channels, agreed protocols, defined red lines, to prevent future crises from spiraling into conflict. This is actually the most pragmatic point on the list. It suggests Iran is not simply posturing, it is thinking about the long-term shape of the post-conflict order. Condition 10, an American guarantee covering all 9 prior points. Not a gentleman's agreement, not a presidential statement, a formal verifiable guarantee that the United States stands behind every single condition listed above. Together, these 10 points don't just ask America to negotiate. They ask America to fundamentally reconfigure its entire strategic posture in one of the most important regions on the planet. Here's where most commentary gets it wrong. People look at these 10 conditions and say, this is fantasy. America will never accept this. And that may be true. But that framing misses the deeper strategic logic at work. Iran doesn't necessarily expect America to accept all 10 points. What Iran is doing is something far more sophisticated. It is redefining the negotiating floor. In any negotiation, the party that sets the opening position controls the eventual outcome. If you ask for everything, you walk away with something significant. If you ask for something modest, you walk away with very little. Iran just asked for everything, and it did so from a position of demonstrated capability. The message embedded in these conditions is not just diplomatic, it is structural. Iran is saying, we have already shown you what we can reach. Imagine what we are willing to reach for if these negotiations collapse. This is coercive diplomacy at its most refined. It doesn't require screaming, it doesn't require theatrics. It requires only that the other party understands the cost of failure. And Iran has made sure that cost is now legible. Let's think about this from Washington's perspective. The United States is simultaneously managing trade tensions with China, domestic economic pressures, a volatile bond market, and an election cycle that has already demonstrated the political cost of foreign policy entanglements. Investors have already begun recalibrating their assessment of American economic stability. The signals from global markets over the past several months have not been subtle. Confidence in American institutions, while still significant, is no longer unconditional. Against this backdrop, a protracted military and economic conflict with Iran is not simply undesirable. For significant factions within the American political and financial establishment, it is genuinely alarming. The back-channel communications that reportedly preceded Iran's formal response were not American confidence in action. They were American anxiety searching for an exit. Iran read that correctly.
American anxiety searching for an exit, man. And they were desperate for some type of exit, you know? And Iran just playing off that desperation, man. But eventually, because I say this is a fragile, ceasefire, and I don't see BB sitting his ass down for 2 weeks. Okay, I don't believe that. And then I think as the brother got this as well. It's this Joel 2:20. This is Brother Warriors of Yahweh Shah 144. I meant to bring that up too. Okay, it said, but I'll remove far from you, or I will remove far off from you the Northern Army, because American has to send ground troops over there. So these 2 weeks could give America some time to get some logistics together to send ground troops. Okay, but these niggas are not. America is not trying to negotiate with Iran. Okay, in good faith, man. All right, this is what you call a strategic ceasefire, and the nigga trying to reposture. Okay, they're trying to get a reset. Okay, they're getting low on munitions, like I say. So this is a reset. Okay, and hopefully they get some logistics together to send ground troops, man. Okay, but we'll see. All right, and it says, and I will drive him into a land barren and desolate, which is Saudi Arabia, with his face towards the East Sea, which is the Euphrates going into the Persian Gulf. Okay, and it says on his hinder part toward the othermost sea, which is the Red Sea behind them. Okay, because they're going to be posturing against Iran. Okay, which is east of that land barren and desert. Okay, and it says, and his stink shall come up, and his ill savior, all right, shall come up, because he have done great things. So whatever these devils got planned, whatever look, because one thing about the West, America and the small heads, they fight with gimmicks. They do a lot of gimmicks. So they got some type of gimmick plan, and that shit gonna fail. Whatever it is gonna fail. All right, but we know one thing, and the whole earth knows that America is not trying to find a deal in good faith, man. All right, nigga just needs a timeout. Okay, and nigga just called full timeout. All right, and finally, Iran granted that nigga a timeout. All right, because they've been wanting a timeout. Okay, they've been wanting a pause. All right, but Iran wasn't granted. Okay, but the earth is watching America ask permission from Iran to do a ceasefire, and asking Iran permission to come through the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, they're seeing this, man, and it's shifting the whole, power balance, okay, to these eastern countries, man. All right, the kings of the east, man. Okay, so a matter of fact, let me see. I think I found some real quick, and then we get one more. All right, and if a brother could get that Isaiah 46 verses 9 and 10, Baba Shah. Let me see. And then another thing too, let's say another power move with China and Russia, because China and Russia, they vetoed the UN resolution to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. So China and Russia vetoed it. Okay, so it didn't go through. But then hours later, it was Russia and China that helped broker a ceasefire through back channels. And that was Russia and China like, look, y'all niggas ain't got no power. Okay? We got the power. We can bring about a ceasefire. Okay? So it's all playing in favor of prophecy, man. Let me see. I think this here right here.
Resolution contained in document S/2026/273. Please raise their hand. Those against?
Yeah, so that was China. I don't think it showed Russia. So all those nations that was for open the Strait of Hormuz, all right. But you see China, the China diplomat, and he like, nah, nigga, keep this shit closed. Nigga, we'll decide that, amongst ourselves, dealing with Russia, China, and Iran. Okay. I don't know what they show the Russian diplomat, man. But you just go to all these different the UN council lately, man. I say Russia and China, they've been swagged up, man, because they know everything going in their favor for the moment. Okay, which they got their role to fulfill in prophecy, man. So let's uh yeah, let's get this, and we'll end it here. It'll be a lot. It's gonna be a lot to watch these next couple of days. You know, this the brother Mark Ball. Well, I'll get this one first. Just the brother. All right, Shaul. Proverbs 16:18 said, "Pride goeth before destruction, and the haughty spirit before a fall." All right, and this whole Edomite system is finna fall, man. Okay, and all these other nations, they're gonna fall with it. All right, because all these nations are intertwined in the system of Esau Edom. Okay, even as they're transitioning to this new world order, these nations are intertwined, and they're all gonna fall with it, man. Okay, and the Lord just has these other nations breaking down. All right, this beast system, man. Okay, and then like I said, the elites, something went wrong somewhere, man. Because this don't fit the narrative of energy crisis lockdown. Why you need a reset? Okay, the devil trying to reset and go at it again, man. You see, showing you that the elites, man, there's some division, some went wrong somewhere, not according to plan. Okay, so what does this mean for the energy crisis now? Okay, we'll see, man. But the Lord prophecy got the elites on the back foot, man. Okay, it's all prophecy. Prophecy gonna prevail. So this is Isaiah 46:9 and 10. It said, "Remember the former things are old, for I am the Most High, and there is none else. I'm the Most High, and there is none like me." Okay, because the Most High, all right, He does His pleasure in the earth. What you gonna get into, man? Okay, the next verse. The Most High is doing His pleasure. You see, the Most High, he doesn't have to reset and try this and try that and hope this work. No, the Most High doing exactly what He wanted to do in the earth, man. Everything is working according to His will. Okay, because I'm saying if it was an energy crisis, if that was the play, nigga, the best thing to do would have been to allow Trump to make his move, and this would have escalated overnight. Oil probably went. Oil would have probably been over $200 a barrel. Okay, you could have sent $10, $12 a gallon oil. I mean, gas. If it was a thing of energy crisis, nigga, you should have let Trump do what he gonna do. You should have sent Trump. You should have. At least they should have sent Trump. All right, to escalate this thing and really put the earth in crisis, man. Okay? There's something going on with them niggas, man. Their confidence ain't like it, like, their confidence ain't like it was at one time, man. Not like them 9/11 days, man. It said declaring the end from the beginning and from the ancient times, the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure. So the Lord is doing all his pleasure, man. Okay, we're watching the Lord do his pleasure in the earth, man. Okay, and that's why we stick, close to prophecy, man, because the devils are all over the place. All right, tacky as hell. Okay, nigga, they act like they timid. They at least act like they timid, nigga. You here now? We here now. Okay, you gotta go what you gotta go through, man. Okay, so that's the point. We'll leave it there. All right, Lord will, you brothers, all right, and you sisters edify once again. I want to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Makakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards your brothers. And peace and blessing, salutations to the hopeful. Shalom.